To tell us a little bit more about the politics desk has in store for us this coming week, we're joined by SABC News Political Editor Mzwandile Mbeje here in studio. Mzwai, good afternoon.
Well,
thank you for joining us. It's a busy week as we anticipate lots happening. I think let's just start with the unfortunate news that just came in with Lungi Nganga Kabashe just having passed away. What's set to happen from here into for the ANC, even just because of a contribution to the country at large as the ANC Women's League President Jab?
I think it's a great loss, not only for the ANC Women's League, but also for the broader struggle for the liberation of women and black people or the oppressed in general, if you look at the kind of contribution that she made. In fact, I understand now as well that the NEC of the Women's League will be having a meeting to then discuss as to how she's going to be honored given the role that she played. So clearly it's one of those that sometimes happen unexpectedly.
No, absolutely. And I mean, we're still asking more questions. There's more questions than answers. But the Deputy President having passed away of the ANC Women's League there, and we did extend our sincere condolences. As we turn our attention to other news coming through, there's Budget 3.0. Who could have foreseen this, given this arrangement of Government of National Unity? From a political standpoint, what's at stake here?
I think we basically got taught how coalition governments normally work. I know that we call ours Government of National Unity, but by all intents and purposes, this is coalition government. So we have seen it happen elsewhere, where perhaps it will even take months, actually, and even years, just to form government. So in our case, it was quite fast. So everyone thought, well, it's just moving and it's just cruising. But what we did not foresee, Elizel, was that this kind of arrangement is fraught with so many logistical challenges, ideological differences. So that's exactly what's happening. I mean, you have parties that are totally different, but because the voters of South Africa decided that we don't want any one person to govern over us, so you'll govern together. So what perhaps the voters of South Africa didn't factor in is that these parties are not so well used to working together. So clearly, what has been happening was that we are being taught lesson 101 of how to manage coalition politics, because there is a tendency that perhaps if you've always been the one, you'll behave as if things are still the same, and you now are getting reminded that, listen, yes, you may be still ahead, but there are other people that you need to go with. And even those who are with you, as much as they are inside, they are not necessarily pulling the strings. So it is important that all parties sit down and speak about these issues. When they sit around the table, it's not about my party this, my party that, but you have to sit and say, South Africans, you're looking at us. Forget about your political inclination. Look at what is best for the country. It's possible you may prefer to go a particular route, but when you look at the broader context, you realize that it may not necessarily benefit the country. So that is what has basically happened. So we are being taught politics 101 of coalition politics, which is fairly new at national government. Yeah,
and speaking of which, I mean, this precedent that has been set, we're going to see how it plays out into local government elections come 2026 and beyond. Do you want to weigh in there as well?
No, I think local government elections has actually been a disaster because we've had these kinds of coalitions. So it's really not been good there. Remember, we even used to ask to say, should something similar happen at national? So will we have the president after 3 months? Because we were really worried. So what they did, I think the political leaders didn't really take into account the fact that this is where we are. I know that before elections, the deputy president hosted the dialogue, really that is looking at coalition governance. But I don't think they went into the details and what it actually meant, because sometimes talk is easy, so you have to do. You can say, no, when we govern with others, we'll respect each other. But if you just say it with the mouth and not with the deed, it's something else. So that's what I'm saying, Elizal. We are being taught as a country politics of Coalition 101.
It's appeasing your constituency, managing the actual mandate of your portfolio and your ministry as well. So yes, learning on the go. But another topic that's obviously coming to the fore, we saw newspapers also headlining it, is the President Cyril Ramaphosa visit to the USA, that invitation that has been extended. And so we've seen the delegations that obviously are going to be meeting from both sides. And the implications thereof politically. Help us understand that more.
You know, it's because of what we know normally happens at the White House in terms of the public optics. So there's a lot of perhaps unease from certain quarters. I mean, we remember what, that spat between the president of Ukraine and the president of the US because there were disagreements. And especially because we know how the president of the US has been saying about what he thinks is happening in this country. And then we wonder when he speaks to the president, so how is he going to feel? Because they had a phone call last week where the president said, he explained that all that you are being told is not true. But a week later, the president of the US still says the same thing. So I guess perhaps things may change when they meet. But then the question is, how will our president react if, for example, the other side continues to peddle this misinformation? But I think, given that I think he's kind of like very well schooled in diplomacy, he'll conduct himself in a manner that will, I think, carry the decorum of, I think, South Africans in terms of really pushing the issues, not just about the optics. So clearly, because some people feel maybe the president shouldn't have gone, but at the end of the day, you cannot ignore the United States. It's the most powerful country, is the superpower, the only superpower, by the way. So you have to engage them. And where there are disagreements, I guess at some point, they'll be able to find each other. Diplomacy,
there's the trade wars that are ongoing that's also happening, but the art of negotiation also coming to the fore, leading up to the G20 and the impact that this might also have there. Mzwai, I also want to bring our attention to SITA in light of what's transpired. We saw Sunday World also leading with that. And so obviously now the president himself coming out to cite, these appointments as a mistake. Tell us a little bit more about what's unfolding on that front. There's issues of nepotism. There's issues of accountability, irregular appointments as well, transparency. What's the bigger picture there, the crux of the matter?
You know what we've spoken about at the beginning of our interview around the coalition politics. You know, when perhaps the only party would just decide what's happening without many questions from other aspects. The fact that the President of the Republic made it clear, so you can see that part of the pressure came from the President to say, when you do these kinds of appointments, you've got to be sure what you're doing. And then not only that, the public must also have confidence in the processes. If then you do things and then you defend them, but when you look at the basis of why you're even doing it, so it does then create a perception of a party either not knowing what it's doing or even corrupt. So I think this is a lesson for those who are appointing authorities in these positions going forward, because honestly, I don't think, as South Africans would expect another kind of a debacle like that, which we saw. I mean, even a member of parliament being frog-marched out because of these issues. So this could have been handled better, and I think the president expressed that as much when he said maybe issues related to incompetence.
Mzwai, let's leave our conversation there, but I know the week is long and there's plenty more in store. I hope the sleep is on the card for you.